having started the OFDM and SCFD, now today what we will do is let us go a bit deeper into the multiple access versions of the scheme, the OFDM-A and SCFDM-A, right? I remember the previous class, the topic which I discussed was single carrier frequency domain equalization. Its multiple access version is going to be SCFD-MA. Okay, so let us see what's the deal with the typical multiple access, by the way. So here are some of the things that we are interested in. So here the author starts from this one, FDMA and TDMA. Okay, and he compares the possibility of compatibility of OFDM, because you cannot allocate the entire infinite bandwidth, right, or infinite time. So it has to be, OFDM has to be confined to particular time instance and frequency limits only. Okay, so let us see if there is anything interesting here. Multiple access overview. Okay, so here is something that is interesting. What does it say? uh, Multiple access strategies typically attempt to provide orthogonal, that is non-interfering communication stand to each active base station or subscriber link. Okay, so that's what a typical multiple access scheme try to do. Orthogonal. Remember, in a digital communication, there was this particular Graham-Schmidt orthogonality principle. Remember that. So that was, if at all you tell how many users are going to be there, how many carriers they are going to use, that particular orthogonality procedure will give you the particular set of carriers or the locations that are given, so that they all are orthogonal to each other. When the users are placed on a carriers or instance that are orthogonal, it is much easy for you to decode. Okay, it's much easier for you to decode. Like as I told you, if at all there is a user one in carrier F1. Okay, now suppose say there are two carriers. Okay, and I told you that it is these two carriers are orthogonal. That means if at all you multiply with the first carrier, you get data related to first carrier only, and data from second carrier is a noise. And when you multiply with second carrier, the data from first carrier will be simply termed as noise. Okay, that is the case. Okay, that's why orthogonality. Okay, because why I told you this is because now in 5G you might be doing some presentations and all. There is also something called as non-orthogonal multiple access that people are discussing, where there are the number of users are so much that doing this orthogonality thing once again seems too tedious. Okay, so non-orthogonal multiple access is also issue. That's why I thought let us stress on orthogonal access. Okay, so what is it, by the way? What do they do? Same number of orthogonal dimensions in a given, they all can be designed to have same number of orthogonal dimensions in a given bandwidth and amount of time. Okay, so that is one more thing. So that means if at all there are some users, so here there is a line. Okay, here say if at all there are 8 units of bandwidth that are available, 8 units of bandwidth in the sense what, either there may be in the frequency domain, there may be 8 users who can be separated like this. Not 8 users, there are 100 users in a tower, but simultaneously at any instant there may be 8 frequency slots. Okay, if at all there are users, say in a tower there may be 500 users, but at a time how many connections, how many calls may originate? Maybe 7 or 8, right, or 3 sometimes. So in that case, this is going to be yeah, I'm sharing, right? Okay. In that particular case, this is the case with FDMA, where they are separated in frequency. Okay, where they are separated in frequency. Whereas in time domain, what's going to happen is, see, this is time. Now let me draw time axis here. So here what's going to happen is, in the frequency domain multiple axis, they are there all the time, but they are there only in this particular frequencies. Whereas in the time domain, what's going to happen is they are separated in time. Okay, they are separated in time, 8 time slots. Okay, suppose 1 second is broken into say 8 time slots. So from 0 to 0.16 seconds, say from 0 to 0.16 second, 0.16 to 0.32, something like that. Okay. So like that, but they are occupying entire frequency band. They are occupying entire frequency band. See, because if at all you are, confining in them in time, you have to make sure that they persist for the entire time period, right? That is where their speed is also going to be, their frequency is also going to be wider. Okay. They are going to be there for, and because duration is now made slower, right? So something like that. So either they are there all the time for a particular frequency, or they are there for entire frequency band but for particular time interval. Whereas in CDMA, they are there at all the time in all the frequencies, but they are one above the other. They are separate in terms of codes. Okay, they are separated in terms of codes. Okay, so these are the three popular schemes that have been there. Okay. So these are the popular schemes that have been there. Okay, so now let us see. Okay, so anything else, by the way? Yes, the other scheme that we wanted to mention was CSMA. CSMA is a random access scheme. So in TDMA, FDMA, CDMA, or in OFDMA, at a time the time slots are fixed. Okay, at a time 8 time slots are fixed. Say we are using TDMA. So in a particular T1 frame or whatever they called it, some 8 time slots are fixed. So you are in this particular tower where at a time 8 calls are coming, then fine. If at all there are 2 calls coming or 3 calls coming, then the remaining time slots are simply going to be unused. Okay, they are simply going to be unused. But at a time 8 time slots are, at a time 8 calls are coming, then all of them will be used effectively, right? This is one case. Whereas whenever we are talking about LAN or Wi-Fi, in such case you cannot expect everybody to occupy the thing every time, right? People trying to send emails and all, they are not such application. For that case, there was something called as carrier sense multiple access. And carrier sense multiple access or something like a user, there is no time slot or a frequency slot allocated for individual user. He simply takes his data, then adds his address and simply puts in the data there. In case the data which reaches the receiver, then it comes back to the transmitter, whoever has sent him, and he will come to know whether the data reached with errors or without errors. If at all there is a collision in the channel, he waits for some random time interval. Okay, random time interval once again starts for retransmission, right? So something like if at all, see, there is no Google connection, it says retrying after 10 seconds, retrying after 30 seconds, retrying after 1 minute, right? It keeps on, it backs off, then I'll give some more time, then again tries, then again backs off, then again gives some more time and tries. Okay, so what's going to happen with this particular thing is, one thing is sure, there are no restrictions. Okay, the handling is very easy. There are no synchronization issues. There is not going to be the frequency synchronization problem, time synchronization problem, nothing like that. But then what's going to happen is, you are doing this pele up sort of thing, and you never know whether the efficient transmission is going to be there or not. So usually what happened in this particular case, even with a single user, the occupancy of the entire slot in terms of time or bandwidth was less than 50%. I hope you still remember the efficiency of slotted Aloha and Aloha. It was something like 50 and 25%, right? So CSMA was somewhat better. Okay, so one thing is there. So it is CSMA is there is no timing synchronization issues, but otherwise, if at all we say, it is something like we could call this as a grantless access sort of thing, where you do not have to wait. If at all you want to call somebody, usually the glitches happen in your BSNL, right? So what's happening now is calls are free. Everybody is talking for 45-50 minutes and all. If at all you make a call to a friend in BSNL, there is congestion in the network, or current at the time the user is not busy, but at the time all the slots available in a particular tower are occupied, either on your side or on the destination side. Such thing is not going to happen in CSMA. CSMA, irrespective of whether the user is busy or not, it simply sends the data. Okay, it simply transmits the data. If at all there is a congestion in the channel, that particular packet is lost and it tries once again. Looks fine, right? It works well for data like an email or maybe sending a movie with without any priority. But if at all you're talking about conversation, not cool. Okay, so that is why CSMA, it's all usually for packet data. But then as the number of users increased, they thought this kind of random access is not so efficient. So that is why they usually even 4G and all, they treated every data as packet data only. But then they did not try this, trying, retransmission and all. It is not possible in case of voice communication. That's why this kind of things are supposed to be inefficient. The random access is sort of inefficient. Let me tell you, it is once again going to come big time whenever you're talking about 5G MMTC. This for IoT applications, this thing is once again coming back, but it's not for bandwidth extensive or time critical applications. Okay, so that was that. Now let us see the possibility of OFDM, combining OFDM along with this FDMA or TDMA. Is there a possibility of doing so? Let us see. Here is a thing. It is possible. Okay. So what is it? OFDMA? Single user's data will be something like this, right? See, a single user data itself will be broken into several subcarriers. They are going to be here. Here there is data going to be for user one. Here there is data for user two. Of course, I am drawing like this. I am talking about orthogonal carriers only. Okay. I am also talking about orthogonal carriers, one above the other. But then all the subcarriers can either lie separately like this. Okay, this is possible. So what you have to do is you go for normal FDMA system only. Within that, what you do is you put your OFDM data. That is within a block of frequency band. Now you have your subcarriers. Okay, so that's a possibility. Or you can also have them separated in terms of time. Okay, that's also a possibility. The block of subcarriers, but then in different time instants. Okay, this is also possible. Even CDMA has been combined with OFDM. That means what you have to do is you can take your data, make it into a multi-carrier modulation scheme by taking DFT. Then afterwards apply it to a CDMA scheme. So that makes it something like MCCDMA or multi-carrier CDMA. That means OFDM CDMA. So simply taking the OFDM data, then afterwards apply CDMA. Okay. So this could have been a possibility. Okay. This is what the thought is going to be the preferred method for even 4G, right? You might have seen this terminology whenever you took those, primitive Reliance dongles that had come earlier, not the current Geo, by the old Reliance. Okay. So they had tried this, right? Tried to give higher speeds. They were performing fine. But then 4G came and changed everything, because OFDM could do all these things with a much better ease. Okay, and trust that CDMA thing was much complicated. CDMA receivers were much complicated. So what happened is normal CDMA phone had a lot of burden shared between the mobile tower and the mobile device itself, right? It would heat up quickly and it would consume lot of battery. Okay, but now the current 4G scheme, whatever we have seen, it's not consuming battery because the clever way they have been designed. Okay, so let us quickly come to OFDMA. So how are we going to do this particular thing? As I told you, say there is a lot of bandwidth available. What you do is, see, this is a bandwidth. This is for user one. Say this is for user two. This is for user three. Here you will have first users subcarriers. Okay. Here you have first user subcarriers. In the second band, you have second user subcarriers. Okay. Here you will have second your subcarriers. Okay. Second user subcarriers. Or here what you can do, then you are going to have third user subcarrier. This is one possibility. Okay. This is one possibility. The second possibility is going to be something like you can have their subcarriers distributed. The one read here, one read here, one read here, maybe. Okay, then second user's data, then this can be second user's data. All are orthogonal. See, all are orthogonal, so it doesn't matter. Okay, then there is going to be third user's data. Okay, so this is something called as distributed subcarriers. Okay, so this scheme is fine. Okay, this scheme is also better. So advantage of this particular scheme is we'll come to that. Say there is a, let me take you to the page. Okay, yeah. Which scheme are they going to adapt? Okay, now see here. Now suppose there is a mobile tower, and say for this particular person, this particular frequency band is having a better characteristics, whereas here it is performing worse for this particular person, whereas this particular frequency band is better, whereas it is worst for these frequency bands. In such case, what you can do, the localized carriers, they always help when you know exactly where the channel characteristics are, how the channel characteristics are for a particular user. So it's called as channel state information, usually retrieved through pilot carriers. What are pilot carriers, by the way? Sending a known information. Okay, if at all you don't know, if at all you do not have a well estimated channel state information, usually channel state information is very tough to get. Okay, and it's just an assumption. So sometimes you never know how the channel is going to be. Sometimes it may be like this, on next instant it may be something like this, at time instant 3 it's going to be, you never know. In this particular case, what you can do is you can have your distributors, you can have your subcarriers distributed in the entire band, so that you will get the diversity. If at all the performance is poor in certain band, say here it is good, here it is good, here it is good, here it is bad. Now suppose I have 8 subcarriers. Okay, I have say 1 2 3 4 5 6, say I had some 6 subcarriers or 8 subcarriers, and the frequency channel is worst in this particular region only. Then since they are split into low frequency low bandwidth carriers, and you can see, what did I say, out of say 8 carriers, one carrier has gone bad. But since what you do is you do not send all the data in a contiguous chunk. Rather what you do is you try to what do you say, interleave the data. So you remember that normal block code 7/4 Hamming code, out of 7 bits, if at all there is 1 bit in error, it can detect it and correct it. So if at all one of the channel goes bad, here what you can do is you can the bit in that particular band may be detected, error can be detected, it can be corrected also. So that is why, as having spread this thing in the entire bandwidth, you get the frequency diversity advantage. Okay, so now let us see how does it work. Now let us see how does it work. So how it is going to be, let us see a block diagram of a OFDM-A. So what is there typically? Say there are 3 users. Say there are 1 2 3 users. Say first user's data, what you do is apply some sort of error control coding, then afterwards go for modulation. COM is the modulation used. Okay, no QPSK, no FSK and all. Okay, COM is the in thing. Okay, so I had given you that assignment. Everybody be curious and go through COM and its advantages. Okay, what they do is they convert from serial to parallel. Why they are converting from serial to parallel, by the way? For Indojulum, here only the magic happens, right? For when you convert the data from serial to parallel, you get to tackle fade. Okay, now the data is serial to parallel. Here is your data. Okay, here is your data. Now let me keep the data as it is. Say 1 2 1 2. So this is the data pertaining to first user. Say 2 1 2 1. Some symbols I'm drawing. Okay, this is data pertaining to second user. Then say 1 2 4 9. This is data that pertaining to third user. Okay, now say 1 2 3 4. You have your data, right? Now what you do is for this particular data, okay, at a time, okay, from individual data, what you do is, see here we are talking about OFDM downlink transmitter. Okay, downlink transmitter is a transmitter that is there in the mobile tower. Okay, centralized mobile tower for all the users. Okay, so you take the data, you take FFT. Now you take FFT. How many point FFT? Even though individual user is sending only 4 bits of data, now there are 3 users. I have to go for now 12 point FFT. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 12 is not possible. I'm taking an example. Okay, 16 is possible, 64. Okay, just give an example. Even though there is individual data width is 4, now you have to take all their collective data. When you take the collective data, what's going to happen is entire data is going to shuffle around here and there, but you change the subcarriers. Okay, now you convert the data once again from parallel to serial, add CP and send the data. Got this particular thing? User 1 data, user 2 data, user 3 data, all of them combined together. Okay, then you applied a very big FFT. Okay, FFT, how many individual user would say this is 4, then there are k number of users, 4 into k. Okay, 4 into k. That many number of data is going to be, that many number of FFT is going to be applied. Then you add CP and you send the data. How do you receive it then? How do you receive it then? Let us go to next page. Now here, now what you are going to do is at the receiver side, once again remove the CP, convert data from parallel to serial. The data might have become some nonsense here. Okay, after you take FFT, entire thing is going to shuffle. But once you take the FFT once again, so you take the data, you take any sequence, you take FFT, then you take IFFT, you are going to get the original data back, right? So then the same data users are going to be separated wherever they are placed. Even if I had shuffled them anywhere in this entire frequency band, they will be, their original location will be reinstated, or it will be once again that they will, all data will come to their original location only. Then here what user does is, individual user, if this was data meant for this particular user, he simply keeps in this data, removes all the other data and he receives it. Okay, only thing the trick is, everybody has to now take, every user has to take L point FFT, even though individual users data was only L divided by K. Even though their individual width was less, they are forced to take a larger point IFFT. Okay, it is fine anyway. Okay, you get to tackle fading, right? So you get to recover your original data. Remember how cool is the method? Okay, you just took the FFT, upscaled it, and then afterwards you again IFFT. Then once again at receiver you take FFT, you take your original data. This was the simplicity which forced the MC-CDMA out of the context, because in CDMA you had to do the PN sequence, you had to do the correlation. It was all difficult. Okay, it was much more difficult. Whereas FFT is half the complexity. Remember correlation. Correlation is nothing but multiplying two FFTs, then taking IFFT. Remember, correlation is nothing but convolution only. Flipped convolution is correlation. It would have been 3 times more complicated. So that is why OFDM, right? It is cool. Now see here, this is downlink receiver. The earlier what I showed was downlink transmitter. This is downlink receiver. So downlink is very easy. Downlink is very easy, and there are no complications involved. But trick comes when you are trying to do uplink. Now this uplink is the case where you have your mobile, okay, and in downlink what we did was, every user's data was combined together and transmitted. It is possible, right? Because from one tower to several users. But when a mobile device is transmitting, you never know where the other users are, where the other users are. So it becomes the frequency synchronization, timing synchronization issues are all going to occur whenever it is from the mobile phone to the tower, because different people talking at different intervals of time. That becomes much more difficult. Here, if at all a single user has to do, what he will do is, he knows his time slots. Okay, say one user is 1201. If it's first user data, second user data, he is not bothered. Second user data, he is not bothered. Third user's data also he is not bothered. Okay, he will simply put in a 0 there. He will simply put in a 0 there. Okay, takes in his data. Remaining all users data, he will simply stuff in with zeros. He will take a big IFFT. Okay, because even though his data is only 4, he will take a 12-point Fourier transform maybe. Once again, I'm telling there is no 12-point Fourier transform. I'm talking about analogy here. Okay, he simply takes in the data and he sends the data. Okay, now the second user who is going to do the conversation, some at some other instance somewhere, he is going to stuff in data only in corresponding to his location. Okay, corresponding to his location. Remaining all other places, he also stuffs them with zeros. I don't care. Okay, I should have put zeros there. He also does the IFFT and he sends the data. Now, all of these will fall in places when all of them they add constructively in a synchronized manner. Okay, when they add up constructively in a synchronized manner, a slight change here and there is going to disturb. Now, where is the synchronization going to come? Because you see, this mobile is speaking to the tower only, right? The mobile device here is speaking to the tower only, right? So that is where, as and when the data comes from tower to the mobile, that is when they synchronizes with that particular clock. So even though several users are sending data simultaneously, if not for the same time slots, maybe in the different time slot, but synchronization is maintained. Okay, synchronization is maintained, or I should say the orthogonality is maintained. Okay. Actually, one thing, there is no OFDMA being used in the uplink. This is a symbolic block diagram. Usually in the uplink they use SCFDMA. Okay, for uplink only SCFDMA is used. Okay, now let us see the SCFDMA. Okay, now this is for uplink receiver. Okay, symbolic uplink receiver. So at uplink receiver means what? A mobile phone receiver. So what you have to do? Remove the CP, serial to parallel, take L point FFT, DMAP, find its location, go for equalization. At receiver, there is always going to be equalization, assuming that the channels are well estimated. Okay, uplink receiver, where will be this uplink receiver? Uplink receiver will be there in the tower. Okay, uplink receiver will be there in the tower. This is the data from all users. Okay, several users sending data at several time. Okay, so what I did was took in the data, converted serial from parallel. Okay. Then afterwards, this is very important. Okay, given that the channels are well estimated, then only equalization can be done and the data is received fine. Okay. So as I told you once again, it is not OFDM, but it is SCFDMA that is usually used. Okay. So carrier allocation. Okay, so here is a diagram which shows how you are going to, wait a second, let me take you to the PPT here. Wait a second. Okay, so as I told you, there can be normal localized modes where the subcarriers can be allocated, or it can be distributed mode of subcarrier allocation, which is a better mode, by the way. As I told you, it's all decided by this particular diagram. Okay. So this one more statement is also important. Uplink OFDM is considerably more challenging than downlink OFDM, since uplink is naturally asynchronous. Asynchronous is I cannot force some 4 people to send the data simultaneously so that timings match, right? Different users signals arrive to receiver slightly offset in time and frequency. This is usually not the case where in case of downlink. Okay, in downlink usually it knows whom they are sending the data, and time frames or everything is prefixed. So that is why sufficiently large frequency offsets can occur and will severely degrade the performance usually across the subcarriers. You might have observed this also. Usually uplink is very slow. Okay, usually that is why uplink is very slow, not a possibility. And as I told you here, so based on what factors? CSI factor is very important. What does CSI mean? Channel state information. You can see channel statement. This is the frequency response for this particular channel, where that what this user is experiencing, whereas this user here is experiencing this particular channel. Okay, this should be known. If at all you know this, then you can do 2 things. You can allocate the subcarriers cleverly, and second thing is you can also do frequency domain equalization. These 2 things can be done with much ease. Okay. They are the 2 advantages. Okay, now let us talk about SCFDMA. So what's the deal with SCFDMA? As I told you, that it is SCFDMA that is used usually from for uplink. Okay, so you can see here For SCFDMA, usually individual user data, then COM modulation, then after a serial to parallel. Now see what is this? This is a transmitter. This is a transmitter, and in SCFDMA, at transmitter itself, you have a FFT. Wait a second. What just happened? Let me take you to one second. Sorry. Yes. Now let us see OFDM once again. See in OFDM, what is the catch? You take. Sorry. Okay. In OFDMA transmitter, what you had, you took your data, combined all the data, you took IFFT, you send the data. Okay. And at the receiver, what did you do? Here is the receiver. At receiver, what you do is you remove the cyclic prefix, converted serial to parallel, took IFFT, took FFT. It was all cool. Okay. Now see, when you go for SCFDMA, there is a little difference, because as we told you earlier that taking SCFDMA, taking OFDM, taking FFT, this is the source where we got that high PAPR, peak to average power ratio, is a battery vampire, and it is not something that we need. That is why we are using SCFDMA for mobile to tower. So here what you have to do is, first there is IFFT anyway, right? You cannot avoid IFFT. That is why what they do is they take FFT to begin with. Take the data, because they now want to have the same thing. Orthogonal subcarrier allocation, they also want, okay, they also want to have this particular thing, because somehow users should be separated, right? Users should be separated, right? In terms of subcarriers. That is what they do is, individual user here, he has his location fixed. Then afterwards, it take FFT. When he takes FFT, his entire data for this red thing will be spread on the entire this particular space here. Okay, in this particular space. Then afterwards, a subcarrier mapper maps this thing onto entire width. Okay, entire width. Then remaining all places, zeros are stuffed in. Then a big IFFT point is taken. Okay, FFT here, IFFT here. So there was a PAPR problem when you took IFFT, but since you took an FFT here, so FFT, IFFT, they got cancelled with each other, and PAPR. So data actually is original only. What is the difference between them? Between this data here and this data? What did you do? What you did was your localized data, actual data. Let me not draw the subcarriers here to confuse you. Your localized data, whatever it was here, once you took FFT, it was spread on to the entire frequency band. Okay, in a small location. Then you stuffed in zeros. And you take IFFT. What that does is, this entire thing now is spread over this larger frequency band. Okay, and since you have taken FFT and IFFT, the data PAPR is also less now. Then what's going to happen at the receiver? You can see at the receiver now, SCFDMA receiver now, you take once again FFT, then you take IFFT. Okay, at receiver, once again you take FFT and you take IFFT. Okay, so everything is fine. Okay, this is where, once again, this is where you converted data from, this is where again PAPR occurred. Because you took the FFT and IFFT, PAPR cancelled, and it was a single carrier spread on a wider bandwidth. Once again, now you are at the receiver. Look at this place. Which is this place? This is the mobile tower. Uplink receiver is at the mobile, very powerful mobile tower, where battery is not a concern for you. Here PAPR will occur, but fine for you. You have your AC supply running. So here you do demapping. Once again, you take IFFT, double the power. Still it is fine for you because you have AC power. And since you took FFT and IFFT, here you can do the frequency domain equalization. Okay, that is something cool. Okay, from whatever channel you had estimated, and you get to recover your data. So I hope you got the difference between OFDMA and SCFDMA. very similar but not same. Okay, very similar but not same. Okay, so in the next class, what we will do is let us discuss about the LTE time frequency grid. Okay, remember the name, time frequency grid. Okay, this is the thing that I was interested in. I had given you task, right, to talk about GSM, to talk about CDMA, to talk about the comparison of both, and what I'm actually interested in. I'm actually interested in this particular thing, the time and the frequency, how they are separated, what are the exact time instants, and how the resource allocation is made to the individual users. Okay, let us see. Anyway, I don't know how many of you have done that exercise properly, but even those who are doing on Wi-Fi, or okay, so I expect you, Darshan, to concentrate on the time frequency grid. Okay, this is what we are much more interested in, how users are separated, resource allocation. Okay, that's the term they are calling it. Okay, anyway, thanks for joining. Let me end this thing here. And Sushma, I think decided, right? Shashank, okay. Pesticides, okay, against pest, protection against pest, that's what you are supposed to look for. Okay, let me end this thing here. Bye.